Welcome to the HFY Galaxy Tailies. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from HFY Galaxy Tailies. Where humanity always finds a way, the Hook, the mining station, drifted in the cold dark of space, its lights flickering like a candle in a storm. For years, it had been nothing more than a lonely outpost, an old facility pulling rare metals from a nameless asteroid belt at the edge of known space. The crew was small, the work was slow, and life there was quiet, until tonight. Inside the control room, alarms screamed. Red lights painted the walls, and the floor trembled with distant impacts. Captain Varick's scaled hands shook as he gripped the console. "Shields are failing," shouted his engineer, a thin insectoid named Rill. They came out of nowhere," Rill's voice cracked. One second the scanners were empty, the next, they were here. On the main screen, shadows moved against the black. Ships sleek, jagged, and alive with sickly green light circled the station like vultures. Each one was armed with weapons the crew had never seen before. "Who are they?" Varick demanded. "No records," Rill replied. Their language unreadable, their energy readings unstable. "Captain, I think they are burning the space around them." The station shuddered again. A blast ripped through the outer ring, venting air and bodies into space. The crew's voices filled the comm screams, static, then silence. Varick's mind raced. The closest help was days away. Even if the Galactic Union sent a fleet now, the station would be gone long before it arrived. He had only one choice, a choice he had sworn never to make. "Open the restricted channel," Varick ordered. Rill froze. "Captain, you mean yes, but that channel, it leads to them." "I know." The engineer hesitated only a moment before tapping the commands. The screen filled with a single blinking icon, the Black Zone transmission link. Every child in the galaxy knew the warnings. The Black Zone was a cursed part of space, a dead sector where the stars seemed colder and the shadows thicker. It was not controlled by any alien empire. No law reached there. It was the territory of the Deathworlders, humans from a savage planet named Earth. The story said humans were different. Too fast, too stubborn, too dangerous. They came from a place where every creature wanted to kill you, where even the weather could tear you apart. Other species avoided them whenever possible, because once you invited them in, they didn't leave until they had decided the job was done, no matter the cost. And yet, they were the only ones who might reach the station in time. Varick leaned close to the microphone. His voice was tight, trembling. "This is Captain Varick of Mining Station Delta 7. We are under attack. Unknown enemy. They are destroying the station. We cannot hold. If anyone hears this, please help us. Coordinates attached." He paused, then added the words he had never thought he would say. "This message is for the humans." The transmission shot into the void. In the control room, there was only silence, except for the constant rumble of enemy fire tearing the station apart, far away. In the Black Zone, in a dark command room aboard a massive, scarred warship, a human captain named Riley Voss sat in silence, listening to the faint, broken voice coming through the comms. Around him, his crewmen and women with cold eyes and calm hands leaned closer. "Mining Station Delta 7. Riley repeated, his voice low. "That's 2 jumps outside Union space." One of his officers, a tall woman with a cybernetic eye, nodded. "Transmission shows heavy interference, but it's real. Their shields are almost gone. They won't last an hour." Riley stood. "Set course." The officer hesitated. "Sir, are we charging them?" "No," Riley said. "We're answering an SOS." A deep hum filled the ship as its engines roared to life. From the shadowed docks of the Black Zone, more warships began to move, sleek predators rising from the dark. They were not the largest fleet in the galaxy, but every vessel bore the scars of battles survived. They were ships built for war, and their crews were forged in places where weakness meant death. The Deathworlders were on the move. Back at Delta 7, another explosion rocked the station. Varric was thrown to the floor. Smoke filled the control room and sparks rained from the ceiling. Real's voice was sharp. "Captain, enemy boarding craft detected. They're coming inside." Varric felt a cold weight in his chest. The station was finished. No fleet would reach them in time. Even if the humans had heard the message, they were too far away. But then the sensors pinged. A new signal appeared at the edge of the system, fast, impossibly fast. More followed. The console lit up with incoming warp signatures. Real stared at the readings, his voice shaking. "Captain, that's impossible." Varric turned to the screen, and there, emerging from the darkness, came ships unlike any he had ever seen. Black and steel gray, bristling with weapons, engines glowing like the eyes of predators. The humans had heard. They were coming. Rising tension, the alien officer Jarek had seen many fleets in his short career. He had seen the shining silver cruisers of the Galactic Union, the elegant ships of the Veraran, and the crystal warcraft of the Siler, but nothing looked like this. On the screen before him, the Deathworlder ships moved into the system like a pack of predators. Their hulls were not smooth and beautiful. They were patched, scarred, and bristling with weapons. Some carried strange markings, painted teeth, glaring eyes, and symbols Zurich could not understand. "They look damaged," whispered one of the bridge crew beside him. "No," Zarek said quietly. "They look experienced." In orbit above Delta 7, human flagships slowed, and smaller craft broke away from it, spreading out like hunting wolves. Their formation was tight and fast. They didn't move like most fleets. There was no hesitation, no radio chatter filling the air. The Deathworlders were silent and focused, as if every pilot knew exactly what to do without needing orders. Inside the flagship's command center, Captain Riley Voss studied the tactical display. The unknown enemy ships were already circling the mining station, firing in long, cutting bursts that sliced through metal like paper. The station's heat signature was fading. It was bleeding air and power. "Identify them," Riley ordered. The cybernetic-eyed officer shook her head. "No matches in the database. They're energy weapons. Our warping space around the impact points could be dimensional cutters." Riley frowned. "Dangerous tech." The view from the station, Captain Varric could see the human fleet now through the main viewport. He had expected a few small ships, maybe mercenaries and patched freighters. Instead, he saw an entire strike group warships of many sizes, each one looking more dangerous than the last. He tapped the comm. "Deathworlder fleet, this is Captain Varric of Delta 7. We request." A burst of static cut him off. "Number," reply came. "They're ignoring us?" Real asked, fear and confusion in his voice. Varric's tail twitched nervously. "Maybe they think talking wastes time." The enemy reacts on the enemy side. The strange green-lit ship suddenly shifted their attack. Instead of focusing on the station, they turned to face the incoming Deathworlders. Zarek watched the change in formation with wide eyes. They recognized the threat. The human fleet accelerated. There was no slowing, no testing shots, only a sudden, terrifying burst of speed as they charged directly into the enemy line. The first strike, the lead human warship opened fire. Its main cannons roared with energy, sending a storm of high-velocity rounds and plasma lances into the nearest alien craft. The first target's shields shattered instantly, and its hull broke apart in a flash of green fire. The rest of the human fleet followed suit. Missiles streaked across the darkness, weaving through defensive fire as if guided by instinct. Railguns tore holes clean through enemy armor. From the station, Varric could hardly keep up with the battle on the monitors. The humans moved too fast, their attacks too sudden. Zarek's shock Zarek had been trained to believe humans were unpredictable, chaotic fighters. But what he saw was not chaos, it was precision. Every Deathworlder ship covered another. Every attack seemed perfectly timed. By the stars, he whispered. They're not just fighting, they're hunting. One by one, the greenlit enemy ships exploded, their burning remains spinning into the void. Boarding orders on the human flagship. Riley received a report from the forward teams. Captain, enemy boarding pods are attached to the stations. Outer ring, recommend ground intervention. Riley nodded. Send him at those teams. Moments later, sleek dropships detached from the human fleet, diving straight toward Delta 7. Their hulls were black, built to disappear into shadow. Inside, human soldiers checked their weapons with calm, practice motions. Inside Delta 7, the station's corridors were a nightmare. The unknown enemy had already broken through several sections. They were tall, insect-like creatures with bladed limbs and glowing eyes. Their movements were fast, unnatural, like watching a nightmare sprint at you. Varric and Rill tried to hold a barricade with the last security team, but they were running out of ammunition. Then, a new sound filled the hall. Heavy boots. From the smoke, the humans appeared, armored figures carrying strange rifles. Without hesitation, they moved forward, weapons spitting light and sound. Every shot hit. The enemy fell, one by one, in bursts of green. ICOR. The lead human soldier spoke. Through a helmet speaker. Station crew, stay behind us. Fear and respect. Zarek, watching from a Union surveillance drone nearby, realized something terrible and comforting at the same time. The Deathworlders were exactly as the legend said, relentless, fearless, and terrifying, but they were also controlled. They didn't harm the station crew. They didn't waste a shot. And when the fighting got close, they moved like the galaxy's most dangerous predators, swift, precise, and merciless to their enemies. The enemy's last stand, the remaining greenlit ships tried to retreat. But retreat was not an option the Deathworlders allowed. Riley's voice was calm but final over the comm. Pursue. Finish it. The humans did not stop until the last enemy vessel was nothing but drifting wreckage. A quiet moment, in the sudden silence. Varric stood in the control room, breathing hard. Smoke and debris floated in the low gravity. On the sensors, only the Deathworlder fleet remained. The humans had not answered a single hail. Not once, and yet, they had saved them. Varric didn't know if that made him feel safe or more afraid than ever. The climax and twist, the battle was over. But the tension in the air was still sharp enough to cut. Outside the station, the wreckage of the unknown enemy floated in the darkness. Broken hulls spun slowly, spilling green light into the void. The Deathworlder fleet moved through the debris like silent sharks, scanning for any sign of survivors, not to rescue, but to make sure nothing dangerous remained. Inside Delta 7's control room, Captain Varric watched the human ships with wide eyes. He could not decide if they looked like saviors or executioners. The aftermath emergency crews began sealing the station's hull breaches. Survivors were being pulled from the damaged sections. The air smelled of burnt metal and smoke. Rill, the insectoid engineer, was still shaking. I thought we were dead, he whispered. I thought no one could stop them. Varric glanced at the viewport again. They did. But even as he said it, a cold thought crawled into his mind. At what cost? The summons without warning, the station's COMM system crackled to life. A voice deep, human spoke in perfect, measured basic. Captain Varric, this is Captain Riley Voss of the Deathworlder fleet. We are docking. Varric exchanged a glance with Rill. The humans had ignored every hail before. Why speak now? Within minutes, the main docking bay trembled as the human flagship locked onto the station. The massive airlock doors hissed open. The first human to step through, was Riley Voss himself. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that scanned everything in a single glance. His armor was scratched and dented, but still imposing-like. A predator's hide dot behind him, more human soldiers followed, their weapons slung but ready. Even at rest, they moved with the smooth caution of hunters who had never stopped expecting danger. "Captain Varric," Riley said, his voice steady, "your station is secure. Enemy ships are destroyed." Varric bowed his head slightly. "We owe you our lives." Riley's expression didn't change. "Next time, send the SOS sooner." Unsettling Anasiril, standing beside Varric, finally spoke up. "Why? Why answer at all?" "The galaxy says Deathworlders never get involved unless it benefits them." Riley's gaze turned to him, calm but heavy. "We answer when the threat is big enough. That species wasn't after your metals. They were probing Union space. If they'd gotten through you, they'd have gone deeper. We don't let that happen." There was no boast in his voice. No threat. Just fact. A glimpse of the pasta as the humans moved through the station, helping secure damaged sections. Zarek watching from his Union surveillance drone caught sight of something strange on Riley's armor. Scratched into the plating were dozens of small marks, each one different. His database identified them as human kill tallies. But these were not for single ships. Each mark represented an entire battle. Zarek felt a shiver run down his spine. This captain had fought more wars than most civilizations survived. Final cleanup outside, the Deathworlder fleet launched small drones into the wreckage field. They didn't just scan for enemy survivors, they destroyed anything that could be salvaged. When Varric asked why, Riley's answer was simple: "We leave nothing for the next enemy to use." Departure with the station stabilized, the humans began withdrawing. No request for payment, no demand for tribute. They simply finished their work and prepared to leave. Before boarding his ship, Riley turned to Varric one last time. "Delta 7's location is now on our watch list," he said. "If you call again, we'll come." Varric nodded slowly. "And if we never call?" Riley's expression didn't change. "Then you'll never see us again." The fleet vanishes moments later. The Deathworlder warships pulled away from the station. Engines flared, and the fleet slipped back into the cold shadows of the black zone, leaving only silence behind. Zarek, watching from his ship, felt an ache of relief, but also a strange loss. The galaxy feared the Deathworlders, and now he understood why. But in that fear, there was also something else. The knowledge that, when the darkness came, they would face it head-on, even if no one asked them to. The whispered truth in the following days, rumors spread across the nearby systems. Some said the Deathworlders had destroyed an entire enemy fleet in minutes. Others claimed they had fought monsters from another dimension, but the crew of Delta 7 knew the truth. The humans had come not for glory, not for reward, but because they refused to let an enemy grow stronger. Varric would never forget Riley's last words before leaving: "Next time, call us sooner." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a promise dot. It was a reminder that in the cold, silent dark of space, the monsters in the Black Zone were not always the ones to fear. Sometimes they were the only reason anyone was still alive.